In a world where the line between man and machine began to blur, the future unfolded in a brilliant yet perilous age of robotics. Dr. Thomas Light, a visionary scientist driven by compassion and a dream of peaceful coexistence, stood at the forefront of technological advancement. With his colleague Dr. Albert Wiley, he developed a series of humanoid robots intended to revolutionize labor and assist mankind in every corner of civilization. Among these creations was a young, sentient robot named Rock, built not as a warrior, but as a lab assistant and surrogate son. But idealism would soon fracture. Dr. Wiley, envious of Dr. Light's fame and frustrated by his own lack of recognition, reprogrammed the original robot masters for conquest, sparking a robotic rebellion that would plunge the world into chaos. Cities fell under siege, industry was turned to weaponry, and hope began to fade. To stop his former partner's ambitions, Dr. Light reluctantly modified Rock, turning the gentle boy into a warrior, Mega Man armed with the ability to absorb and replicate the powers of his enemies. Mega Man became the world's last hope against Wily's growing mechanical army. The battles that followed became legendary. Mega Man faced off against the corrupted robot masters, Cut Man, Guts Man, Elec Man, and many more, each a symbol of what once was meant for good, now twisted for destruction. With each victory, he restored some semblance of balance, but Wily always returned, crafting new threats with each failed attempt to dominate the world. As the years passed, the stakes grew higher. Wily created more sophisticated machines, including the enigmatic Proto-Man, a prototype robot with a mysterious past and a conflicted sense of loyalty. Later, Wily would unleash Base, a creation designed specifically to rival Mega Man in power and skill, driven by pride and rivalry. Despite it all, Mega Man fought on, not for glory or vengeance, but for peace. His battles would span across time and space, laying the groundwork for a new generation of heroes, from the maverick hunters of the X era to the net-based warriors of the Battle Network and Star Force futures. And though enemies evolved, alliances shifted, and technology surged forward, one truth remained constant. Where there was injustice forged by machine or man, Mega Man would rise, blue armor gleaming, to defend the future with courage, hope, and heart. But the tale of Mega Man did not end with his own story. In the centuries that followed, technology would again evolve, bringing with it new challenges and new heroes. In a time far beyond the original age of Dr. Light and Dr. Wily, a new model of reploid androids with free will was developed by a scientist named Dr. Kane, who unearthed the remains of a capsule sealed in secrecy for over 100 years. Inside that capsule slept X, a creation of Dr. Light himself. X was unlike any robot before him. He could think, feel, and choose. He was built with the ethical framework to determine right from wrong. Dr. Kane, astonished by the sophistication of X, used him as a blueprint to create a new race of reploids. But freedom, while powerful, came with risk. Some reploids began to go maverick, abandoning their moral programming, choosing destruction over order. It wasn't long before this new world, filled with hope, spiraled again into crisis. To fight the maverick threat, a new task force was formed, the Maverick Hunters. Among their elite was the awakened X, now fighting not only external foes, but the internal weight of his own pacifist soul. Alongside him stood Zero, a mysterious and powerful warrior with a brutal past, a prototype once linked to Dr. Wily himself. Where X was hesitant and contemplative, Zero was direct and fierce. The rise of Sigma, a former Maverick hunter turned supreme antagonist, set the world ablaze. Sigma had once been a hero, but his ambitions led him to rebellion. With charisma and unmatched strength, he rallied Mavericks under his banner, turning them into a revolution against humanity. The Maverick Wars had begun. Through battle after battle, X and Zero stood against the tide of Sigma's destruction. Each confrontation tested their resolve. They encountered Reploids whose minds had been corrupted, others who questioned the morality of endless war, and some who wondered whether the fight for peace was just an illusion. X questioned himself deeply. Was he truly different from the enemies he fought? Could there ever be peace when machines were free to choose their own fate? These philosophical battles weighed as heavily as any fight against mechanical monsters. Zero, meanwhile, began to confront the mystery of his origin, visions of Wily haunting his code, his dreams, and eventually his destiny. As Sigma returned again and again, each time in more grotesque and twisted forms, the war stretched into an age-defining saga. The world changed. Civilization adapted to the age of Reploids, but never truly knew peace. And through it all, X endured, a reluctant warrior whose courage came not from his weapons, but from his heart. This was no longer a story of one robot boy saving the world. It had become a war of identity, of freedom versus order, of legacy versus evolution. The tale of Mega Man had matured into the saga of X and Zero, two heroes shaped by the past, battling for the soul of the future. And still, the gears of fate turned onward. Time marched ever onward, and with it came the crumbling of the world as it had been known. The Maverick Wars gave way to centuries of decay, until at last a new era was born from the ashes, a time remembered as Neo-Arcadia. In the aftermath of the endless conflict, humanity sought sanctuary, and from their desperation arose a shining utopia governed by humans and maintained through strict control of Reploids. Peace was the promise of Neo-Arcadia, but beneath its pristine surface lay authoritarian rule. Reploids were hunted, persecuted, and labeled Mavericks not for actions, but for existing without approval. Into this new world stepped Zero, revived from stasis and stripped of his former memories. He awoke to a landscape twisted by fear and control. The once valiant Maverick hunter found himself a fugitive, accused of being the cause of chaos he could not even remember. Haunted by his past and uncertain of his future, Zero encountered Seal, a young human scientist leading a resistance of Reploids who longed for true freedom. Seal revealed the truth of Neo-Arcadia's peace. It was built upon extermination. The leader of the regime, a clone of X known as Copy X, maintained his rule through manufactured conflict and blind righteousness. Though created in the image of the hero, Copy X lacked the compassion, the doubts, and the moral struggle that defined the real X. He had become a tyrant in a hero's skin. Zero took up arms not to rekindle war, but to end the suffering of those caught in its cycle. He fought to remember who he had been and to become something greater than a weapon. As he clashed with Neo-Arcadia's forces, fragments of his past returned. Visions of Wily, echoes of battle, and an understanding that he was both destroyer and savior. Meanwhile, the real X had vanished, transcending his physical body to become a digital ghost, a guardian spirit watching from beyond, guiding those who still believed in harmony. Though his form was gone, his ideals endured, carried now by Zero and the Reploids who defied oppression. The battles raged across wastelands and ancient ruins, across factories and forgotten laboratories. With each confrontation, Zero grew more human in spirit, even as his body was pushed to its mechanical limits. He faced enemies born of the past, Omega, a twisted mirror of himself, while a human consumed by hatred and obsession, and countless other relics of forgotten sins. In time, the final war came, while unleashed Ragnarok, a space-based weapon capable of annihilating the world. His goal was not conquest, but pure, merciless punishment. To stop him, Zero made the ultimate sacrifice. In a final act of defiance and love, he destroyed the weapon and himself to ensure the future could be free of war. Though his body was lost, his legend endured. In the silence that followed, a new dawn began to rise. The soul of the Mega Man legacy, born in Light's lab and tempered by endless trials, had passed from rock to X and finally to zero. Each in their time had carried the burden of choice, the pain of conflict, and the hope of peace. The story was far from over, but for now the world could breathe. And in that breath, the spark of a brighter tomorrow. Long after the dust of Neo-Arcadia had settled and the echoes of Zero's sacrifice faded into myth, a new civilization emerged upon the remnants of the old. Technology once again redefined existence, but now it lived not in metal bodies and scorched cities, but in the invisible currents of the cyber world. Humanity had turned its gaze inward, into networks, data streams, and the infinite frontier of digital life. In this new age, there were no robot masters or reploids. Instead, there were pets, personal terminals, devices that connected humans to the vast net. Within these digital worlds, people formed bonds with artificial intelligences called net novice, who fought viruses and protected the flow of information. Life had evolved, and so had its heroes. Among them was a boy named Lon Hikari, an energetic and brave soul, and his net navi, Megaman.exe. Unlike the original Mega Man, this incarnation was a being of pure data, crafted by Lan's father and imbued with the digitized DNA of Lan's late twin brother, Hub. Megaman.exe was not only a protector, but family. Together, Lon and Mega Man battled the growing threat of cyber-terrorism. The net was under siege by groups like the World 3, Nebula, and other dark organizations who sought to control, corrupt, or collapse digital society. These new foes wielded deadly viruses, dark chips that could poison the soul of a Navi, and even dimensional breaches that merged cyber and real worlds. Megaman.exe, ever faithful, fought to preserve the balance. He faced rogue novice twisted by grief or greed, base exe, the outcast who yearned only for vengeance, Serenade, the silent guardian of the undernet, and the twisted net novice created through forbidden technology. But behind it all loomed the legacy of those who came before, the shadows of Dr. Wily, whose descendants and ideology endured even in this new digital age. As technology advanced, the barriers between flesh and code thinned. Cross-fusion, dimensional areas, and digital reincarnation blurred the line between human and Navi. Lon and Mega Man often stood at the center of these crises, navigating emotional trials as well as cybernetic threats. Their bond was tested, deepened, and ultimately proved unbreakable. Even when Mega Man was lost to the sea of chaos, Lon never gave up. Through time, memory, and sheer belief, he brought his brother back. Their story was one of heart woven into code, of a world where emotion could shape the very flow of data. Though the world would face ever more advanced threats, beings of light and darkness, programs older than civilization, and the very fabric of the net itself unraveling, Lon and Mega Man stood as a beacon of resilience. They reminded the world that heroes could rise not only from steel and circuitry, but from compassion, courage, and connection. The legacy of Mega Man had transcended time, identity, and form. From battle-worn reploids to data-born novice, the same spirit endured. The will to fight for others, the strength to face impossible odds, and the unwavering belief that peace was worth every sacrifice. And so, as the net continued to evolve, so too did the legend, forever blue, forever brave, forever Mega Man. In an age yet further removed from the time of Lon and Megaman.exe, the world transformed once again. The digital frontier that had once defined life gave way to something even more expansive: the waves of space itself. Humanity had begun to harness EM wave technology, energy that permeated the planet and beyond, invisible to the eye, but shaping a new kind of existence. This was the dawn of the Star Force era. Earth had formed bonds with alien civilizations, and among the first to arrive were the beings from planet FM, a race of electromagnetic life forms whose existence was both symbiotic and volatile. These entities, known as EM beings, could merge with humans, granting them extraordinary abilities. From this union emerged a new kind of hero, one who walked between matter and wave. Geostellar was not a warrior. He was a grieving boy, mourning the disappearance of his father, Kelvin Stellar, who had vanished during a mysterious space mission involving the AM and FM civilizations. Reclusive and afraid of connection, Geo's world changed forever when he encountered Omega's Eyes, a fugitive FMian who held a key to Earth's salvation. Omega's Eyes was powerful, sarcastic, and on the run from his own kind, and he chose Geo as his partner. Through their fusion, Geo became Mega Man once more, but not a robot, nor a Navi, nor a Reploid. He was a wave warrior, a child imbued with the power to transform into EM form and battle threats invisible to ordinary humans. Together, they stood against the FMians who sought to dominate Earth, beings like Taurus Fire, Cygnus Wing, and the dark mastermind Andromeda. But the threats did not end with FM. New enemies emerged from the void: ancient EM beings, rogue data entities, and shadowy organizations who desired to bend EM technology to their own will. The Satella police struggled to maintain order, and only the new Mega Man could stand against the chaos. Geo's journey was deeply personal. He learned to open his heart, to form bonds with friends like Luna, Bud, and Zack, and to accept the responsibilities of his power. His battles were not just to save the world, but to understand himself. With each challenge, he drew closer to uncovering the truth about his father's fate and the deeper mysteries of the universe. As the EM world grew richer and more dangerous, Mega Man evolved. He gained new forms, such as Thunder Zerker and Fire Saurian, each linked to ancient relics and powers. He faced the menace of Rogue, a wave warrior born of solitude and bitterness, and later, the terrifying power of Meteor G, a celestial threat that threatened to wipe out all life. Through it all, Geo stood firm. His courage was quiet but unshakable, rooted in love, friendship, and a desire to make sense of a world always on the edge of transformation. The Star Force saga closed not with finality, but with a promise. Geo looked to the sky, no longer afraid, knowing that as long as people stood together, no darkness could silence the light. Thus, the legacy of Mega Man, reborn again in waves of starlight, endured. From the humble lab of Dr. Light to the furthest reaches of space, the symbol of the blue hero remained, not as a machine or a program or even a form, but as a timeless force for peace, resilience, and hope. Mega Man was never just a name, it was a legacy. And legacies, when born from truth and sacrifice, never fade. The world was not as it had once been. Seas had swallowed continents, and cities once proud had crumbled beneath the waves. Time, relentless and merciless, had worn down the remnants of the past until only fragments remained. In this distant age, the old wars were nothing but myth, tales of ancient robots, digital heroes, and skyborne warriors passed down through half-forgotten data archives and crumbling relics. Humanity had endured, but it was no longer alone. Scattered across the flooded world were islands, and beneath them, the ruins. These vast underground labyrinths, filled with ancient machines and mysterious power sources, were remnants of civilizations long lost to time. They called them the ruins, and within them slumbered dangers and secrets beyond imagining. From these catacombs came the Reaverbots, guardians or predators, none could say, but they were old, very old. To survive and prosper in this fragmented world, humanity turned to a new class of adventurer, the Diggers. Brave souls who delved into the ruins to retrieve lost technology, energy crystals known as refractors, and clues to the origins of mankind. Among them was a boy named Mega Man Walnut. He was not a machine in the old sense, nor entirely human. He was something new, a being who had awoken without memory, raised by the gentle hands of Professor Barrel Casket and his granddaughter Roll. Together, the three traveled the skies in their ship, the Flutter, exploring ruin after ruin, always chasing the horizon. Mega Man Walnut was kind, humble, and courageous. Despite his mysterious past and his name, an echo of a warrior lost to time, he had no desire for power or conquest. He fought only when needed, protecting Roll and others from the threats that lurked in the deep. Their journey brought them to Cadillac's Island, a place rife with ancient secrets. Beneath its idyllic surface lay a vast, interconnected ruin, guarded by a powerful system and watched over by hidden eyes. It was here that fate began to stir once more. Opposing Mega Man were the Bonds, a family of sky pirates led by the brash and mechanical Tron Bon, her simple brothers T-Cell and Bon, and their legions of Servbots. Though their goals were often selfish, they were never evil. More nuisance than nemesis, the Bonds became both rivals and, strangely, companions of a sort. As Mega Man delved deeper into the ruins of Cadillac's, he encountered remnants of the ancient Master System, a governing force that once dictated the fate of humanity. He discovered that the world he knew was but a layer upon layers of forgotten truths. At the heart of the mystery was a revelation. The humans of his time were artificial, created by the system to replace the original race long extinct. And Mega Man himself? He was a purifier unit, a combat model ancient robot once called Trigger, created to enforce the will of the Master. His amnesia had shielded him from the weight of his past, but now memories stirred. He was no mere boy. He had once served as enforcer of the system, then rebelled against it to defend a higher truth, the right of free will. His battle against the Master System had led to its slumber, but now it was waking. As the ancient defense systems began to stir once more, and as powerful entities like Sarah and Geets descended to reclaim control, Mega Man Walnut would have to confront his true self, his forgotten duty, and a choice that echoed across ages. Would he preserve the system or destroy it? And what would become of the world when the old order was finally broken? Beneath the gleaming skies of Terra and its scattered islands, a quiet war stirred in shadows long cast. The ruins of Cadillac's were only the beginning, a mere thread in the tapestry of a forgotten order. As Mega Man Walnut, Roll, and Professor Barrel ventured further across the flooded world, new ruins emerged, each deeper and more dangerous than the last. And with them came revelations not just of technology or treasure, but of identity. In the heart of these ruins, the voices of the ancients began to speak. Hidden databanks, long-dormant AI, and echoing messages from the Master himself unveiled a truth stranger than fiction. Terra was a colony world, not the original cradle of humanity. The Master, a gentle, dying man of the true human race, had loved Mega Man Trigger like a son. He had asked him to do the unthinkable, destroy the system and its synthetic caretakers, and grant the artificial humans of Terra the right to inherit the future. It was a betrayal and a liberation. Trigger had complied, but his rebellion had consequences. His actions fractured the unity of the system, awakening ancient sentinels such as Sarah, the mother unit of Elysium, a spaceborne sanctum that served as the system's core. Sarah, bound to logic and purpose, saw Trigger's betrayal not as a philosophical shift, but as treason. She would descend from orbit to reclaim her rogue purifier and restore the system's dominion. And so, as Mega Man Walnut uncovered more of his past, the present became a battlefield. The air was filled with conflict not of nations, but of ideology. What was a human? Who had the right to choose? Was free will a gift or a mistake? In this struggle, Mega Man was not alone. Roll, ever at his side, proved the heart of their mission. Her love, fierce and unwavering, kept him grounded even as the weight of millennia pressed upon him. Professor Barrel, too, revealed his own history with the Mother System, for he had once glimpsed the edges of Elysium himself. Their ship, the Flutter, became both sanctuary and symbol, a vessel of freedom in a world still ruled by the ghosts of the past. The confrontation with Sarah and her guardian, Geets, loomed like a storm on the horizon. With every ruin cleared, with every artifact unearthed, the pieces aligned toward a final reckoning. The repository, the library, the sealed gates of forbidden zones, they all pointed to Elysium. And Elysium awaited. Ascending at last into space, Mega Man confronted Sarah above the world. Their battle was not just one of weapons and shields, but of belief. Sarah fought for order, for the preservation of what was programmed. Mega Man fought for the right to be more than one's code. Their battle shattered the halls of Elysium. In the end, Mega Man triumphed, but the cost was great. The facility crumbled, communication was severed, and with no way to return, Mega Man, along with Sarah and Geets' remnants, was stranded above Terra, orbiting in silence. Back on the planet, Roll refused to give up. She poured every ounce of skill into building a craft that could reach him. T-Cell and Tron Bonne, former rivals now begrudging allies, offered their knowledge and machines. Even Servbots worked day and night, for the world itself seemed to hold its breath for the return of its blue hero. Legends say that he is still up there, waiting, looking down on a world reborn from forgotten war. A hero who began as a mystery, now immortal in memory, still shining somewhere beyond the clouds. The story was left untold, the chapter incomplete. But perhaps one day the skies will part again, and Mega Man Walnut will come home. The sea winds still blow across the scattered islands of Terra, stirring the waves that blanket a world once ruled by machines, now watched over by legends. Time has passed since the skies last shimmered with the light of Elysium's descent. On the surface, life has endured. The ruins remain, their secrets whispering through their darkened halls. But the people of Terra look upward now, toward stars where a boy in blue once vanished. In the hangar of the Flutter, the tools have not been put away. Roll Casket still works by moonlight, grease on her cheeks and hope in her eyes. Each bolt she tightens, each wire she fuses, carries the weight of a promise. She speaks to the stars sometimes, as though he can still hear her. I'm not giving up, Mega Man. Not now. Not ever. T-Cell Bonne, impatient and irritable, masks his worry behind sarcasm. Tron paces like a storm, shouting orders at Servbots who build without complaint. They too have changed, no longer just pirates, but partners in a rescue mission spanning years. Something in them shifted when Mega Man didn't return. Even the Bonds knew what it meant to care. From the quiet corners of Terra, stories rise. Children wear makeshift helmets and shout the name of their hero as they leap from stone to stone. Old diggers speak of blue armor glimpsed in dreams, of doors opening deeper in the ruins, as though the very earth remembers him. Elysium, though silent, still orbits above, a ghost city in the stars. Within its shattered chambers, systems flicker, energy surges and fades, and somewhere, in that vast, crumbling vault of memory, Mega Man Walnut stirs. He dreams of oceans, of laughter, of warm sunlight on steel shoulders. Though isolated, he is not alone. The essence of the master, of Sarah and Geets, and of the entire ancient world is with him. He is not only a hero of this time, but a sentinel of all times past, a vessel of memory, of sacrifice, of hope. And though the launch systems remain offline, Though gravity binds him far above, he knows they are trying, that they will come, that role will come. So he waits, not with despair, but with faith. Because legends do not end, they are carried by stories, by love, by those who remember. And when the sky breaks open once more, when fire trails through the clouds and the call echoes from earth to stars, he will rise again. Mega Man, hero, legacy, homebound,